Well, welcome,
Sounds amazing.
Cactus. Good to have you.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much. Sorry for the very short notice that I wanted to be on Testimony Tuesdays, but hey, it worked out great, I think.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Literally sometimes it's been even shorter than that. It's been like in the moment, like, oh, hey, I could share mine. Okay, boom, you're on, go. so no, you're just perfect. Yeah, so everyone, let me do a little intro thing first. Hi, everyone. This is something that we do occasionally on Tuesdays or other days of the week. It's been sometimes before, but we call it Testimony Tuesday, and it's a time where believers can come on and just share their story, share, how they were saved, what God has done in their life, what God is doing in their life, just whatever it is that is kind of on your heart, but an opportunity to just give glory to God and share our story, because we all have different stories, and the Bible's very clear about just the power and importance of our testimony and our story. Like in the book of Revelation, it says, they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. Your story is powerful. So I like to make opportunity to hear people's stories. So today, this is Cactus, and I'll let her introduce herself and tell her story, but she watches a lot over on the YouTube side. So Twitch people, y'all might not have interacted with Cactus a lot, but she's here a lot. And yeah, so Cactus, why don't you kind of take the floor and tell us a little bit about you and whatever you'd like to share on your story. And I'll be as quiet as I can, although I talk a lot, so I'll do my best to be quiet.
That's totally fine. It makes it feel more natural. And I also didn't know how to record this, so I was like, you got to make it live or else it's not happening.
There you go. Totally understand.
I am Cactus on YouTube, or Cactus and some numbers when YouTube decides that I need numbers at the end of my name. But my parents did name me that, as most of you probably understand. My name is Sarah. I grew up in New Mexico, was not born in New Mexico. My parents decided that the humid state of Arkansas was not good enough, and that the wonderful toasty state of New Mexico is where I needed to grow up instead. And that is where my story begins, because I don't remember anything from the state that I was actually born in. And you have to forgive me. I have my testimony written down because I have a tendency to forget everything. So I have it on my phone.
Oh, trust me, I totally understand.
to keep things smooth, but of course it's not a free app, so it's going to make me pass through an ad every time I want to look at my own life story.
Wow.
So to start off, my earliest memories of church was growing up in a little tiny town in, of course, New Mexico, and I went to an Assembly of God. And it was a wonderful little church. I went there like super young, Sunday school, and kind of grew up there for a while. And I always had a bit of a conflict when it came to church when I was younger, because, my family, love them to death. We are wonderful, godly people on Sundays. And the rest of the week, there was anger and frustration and cursing and gossip and all the things, but not at church on Sundays. And so growing up, I never really got to see the fruits of the Spirit in my home. And you really don't know what that's going to do to you when you're little. But it'll confuse you. It really will, even if you don't quite understand it. And so I was very confused. I ended up growing up in I love God on Sundays kind of person. And my family was a very broken family. Lots of issues with, my mom's parents, my dad's parents, lots of stuff. So that's why they ended up moving here, to kind of get away from the conflict of their own parents, but in the process never really kind of figured out their own dynamic. And so there was lots of yelling in my household, lots of niceness, and never really teaching me as, a little girl, the importance of Jesus, the importance of God. that this isn't just a religion, that this is a relationship with someone that's real. And you always say all the time, Doostyn, that you weren't very smart. I wasn't either. So I never quite grasped all that stuff as a little kid. Like some of the kids in my class, I remember they were little tiny kids on fire for Jesus. And I'm like, I'm doing trivia for Tootsie Rolls. You know, I was doing my best, but it didn't quite compute for a while. And the fact that I didn't have for lack of a better term, a proper dynamic, I think that parents should have in a home when they say that they are Christians. I continued down that path of just, I'm going to church, I'm doing my Bible trivia, I know the little things that I'm being taught.
Right.
And I don't quite remember what age I was, but I do remember all of the Sunday school kids. We got to be brought into main service, and once a month we had communion. And I remember very specifically one day while we were doing communion, our pastor had spoken about coming to the altar to receive prayer and asked to receive the Holy Spirit if we wanted. And quite a few of the older kids had gone up, and I also had gone up. And I remember praying and just thinking, like, am I praying right? What if I don't pray and ask for the Holy Spirit correctly? I won't get it. And at the same time, also not quite understanding what that meant yet either.
Yeah.
But I did go up and I did pray, and God honors that no matter how young you are. He really, really does. Because it's still you trying. And even when you're little, don't even remember how many Tootsie Rolls you got from answering your questions in Sunday school. God knows.
Yeah.
More than you will ever. And so I was saved very little and very young. And God began working in my life at that moment, as he does when you receive the Holy Spirit, no matter what age. And let me make sure I'm on track here. As I got older, little by little, I began to understand a little bit more. Even so young, God gave me a little more of a desire to understand. And I was still in Sunday school, so I was very young. Again, I don't know how old I was exactly, but things happening in my family were not going great. My parents were more at each other's throats. My mother, who suffered from horrible, horrible depression, decided just kind of out of the blue, well, I don't want to go to church anymore. I don't want to go to church. Never understood it, never explained it. And for a while, every Saturday night and Sunday morning as we were getting ready, my mom and dad were at each other's throats. Just, I don't want to go to church. We're family and we're going to go to church. And, I'm sitting there in my Sunday best.
Wow.
And then fighting all the way to church in the car. And then we walk in with that fake smile so many Christians wear on their faces when they go in. And it really began to confuse me of, I was learning about the fruits of the Spirit in Sunday school. And I'm like, I don't see it in my family's life at all. And therefore I didn't see it in my own life because of how young I was. And we ended up stopped going to church. We stopped going to church for a little while. I was still in elementary. This was here. I think I have it written down here, so I have a better time. I was on and off prior to 4th and 5th grade. And then 4th and 5th grade hit, and we were really going like consistently every Sunday. And that's where I learned a majority of, your little kid staples.
Right.
And, I like I mentioned, I really started to learn a good little bit. God was working in my life. I remember being on the playground and kids being like, "What is wrong with you?" Because I would be like, "We're all brothers and sisters in Christ." And they're like, "I don't know you. You're you're down the hall. I don't even know who you are. Go away." And little third grader getting persecuted in
Right.
school for talking about Jesus. And just kind of boom, we're not going. No explanation why. The fighting kept happening. And very particular, we did not go my entire first year of middle school, 6th grade for me.
Okay.
We didn't go. We did not go, not one bit. I lost practice with what I knew. I wasn't remembering it. I wasn't, keeping it in my brain. And I would assume that most kids in 6th grade, that's when you start, you hear bigger kids with their new fancy bad language. It's
right.
supposed to be real cool and
Right.
music that kids shouldn't be listening to. And I got really into it. A little 6th grader talking like a sailor. Stuck in a storm and listening to dumb music that I didn't know what I was listening to, like most people. And I got obsessed with it. And I loved it. I loved the sound of the music, even though I had no idea what I was listening to. And I'm keeping this a secret because, if my family knew that I was, at school, every other word being a word that little me shouldn't have been saying,
Right.
I would have been in trouble. So that's when a lot of secrets started coming into play. My parents had no idea who my friends were. They had no idea what I was listening to. They had no idea what I was saying. They were just like, go to school, eat the food because it's free for us, and be on that bus because it's too far away for us to come get you. So that was my life. And again, make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. That year, I did not once recall praying. I never prayed. I don't remember going to church at all, except for maybe the Christmas service. And, just became absorbed into the things of the world very, very quickly. 7th and 8th grade, early 7th grade, I should say, my father got a heavy fire for the Lord. And he was like, we're going back.
Wow.
We're going back to church. We have to. And my mom, once again, fought tooth and nail. Just every day prior to church, Wednesday service, all of it. She fought and fought and fought. She did not want to go. And I hadn't gone in a year, hadn't thought about Jesus in a year, didn't pray for a year. We weren't praying during meals. We didn't pray for family members or friends. There was not an ounce of Jesus in our house from our perspective. And my MP3 was just full of worldly music, all kinds of stuff. And, there was very much a big I'm boss man kind of thing that my father would do. So he, took my MP3, got rid of all my music, just replaced it all with worship music. And I'm young, I'm frustrated. I am trying to be like, well, that's my stuff. There was not really an explanation, and was just like, you're going to listen to this worship music without explaining the importance of why we don't listen to the things of the world. Yeah. Why it's important to listen to worship music. I was just sitting there going, worship music is so boring. I'm going to fall asleep. I'm supposed to be awake when I get to school. You're making me listen to all this stuff that's super slow, and I have no idea what's being said. And so I, in turn, didn't want to go back to church either. And so I would be with my mom on that side and be like, well, what's the point? We haven't been there in a year. You didn't push for us to go. You haven't explained the importance. And we ended up going anyway. Dad's the boss. We're going to do what Dad says. And so we did go back to church. And at that point, I was, of course, too old to be in, little Sunday school. Right. And I got put in the big service. And they really got to prepare you for that, because at least for my experience, my pastor, I didn't know anything that was being said. You know, our church read from a King James Bible, which, you know, for me in 7th grade, I'm sorry, I'm looking at it and I'm in school and I don't read stuff like this. I'm like, this is like if Dr. Seuss wrote the Bible and nobody's explaining it to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand anything that's happening. And so I would sit there and it would just be so long and I would be confused. And I'm like, none of this makes sense. And there was never really any explanation. Now, to be fair, I, was in 7th grade and not really paying attention and was a brat. But, I was like, I have to be here and I have to make the best of it. So I would do my best to read it on my own, which never got me far with, the King James Bible.
Yeah.
And fortunately, at that same time, there was a woman at the church that was like, oh, these younger, adults, not quite young kids, they need something more than this because they're not going to come back. So she started the youth program. And, immediately, as soon as she did that, my dad was like, you're going every Wednesday, you're going every Sunday. And we went, and again, it was a very small church. So there were like 5 of us. And, this really sweet woman and her husband tried their absolute best to be like, we're going to make sense of stuff. Here, we have new Bibles. It's not the King James Version. You're going to understand what you're reading. I don't remember what version it was. But, we started, doing more Bible trivia, started actually digging in the Word and what was applicable for young students. She started to pry our brains on, why is it important to pray, guys?
Right.
You don't realize how important that is for, younger adults and, kids. It's important to have them begin to think those things. That way, they're not older and they're following a motion of just religion rather than pursuing a relationship with God. And I really kind of was like, oh, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm starting to understand more. And I was praying regularly. I always went to the youth groups, all that stuff. It wasn't like, it didn't take place during service. So I was still in the main service, confused because my pastor would speak tongues. And there wasn't an interpreter. I had no idea what was going on. And again, I might have just not been paying attention because, like I said, I was not a very smart kid. I had no clue. I was like, nobody's explaining what's happening. We're praying and worshiping at the end of our service, and he's over here talking, and I don't know what he's saying. And I'm like, am I losing my mind? And it wasn't until I was an actual adult that I am reading on my own, and I'm like, oh, that had a name. I wasn't just having a stroke. I was in 8th grade. Like, he was doing something, but nobody explained it. Which, is very important. So the only time I say getting nourishment and actually being fed at a level that I could understand anyway, was during my youth groups. And once again, after 8th grade hit, somewhere in 8th grade, towards the end of 8th grade anyway, we stopped going to church again. No explanation, no nothing, just no more church. And, I asked because I enjoyed going. I wanted to go to my youth groups at least. And no, we're not going. And just randomly a few months later, I find out, oh, well, it's because the pastor is no longer the pastor there. We have no one, and we don't like him. And that was it. Wow. I did not go to church my entire 4 years of high school.
Whew.
No church. They didn't push for me to have my worship music. There was no practice of prayer in my home or anything. And, my family, we were always at each other. My mom at my dad, me at my brother, who, by the way, is 12 years older than me.
Okay.
And so he was not in the picture ever. He was always old enough to be like, I'm an adult. I don't want to do it. I'm not going. And my brother, even when I was very young, I remember my brother coming to me and trying to denounce my faith when I was little itty bitty.
Oh,
And him
wow.
being like, you understand what you believe in. And, I was little and he's right. I didn't understand, but I was like, I believe it anyway.
Wow.
So, and as I got older and he was like, you can hold a conversation now, he would still try to do it. He would go, why do you believe in that? He found it to be in the same boat as like other religions or like girls with crystals, right? He was like, there's nothing. It's not real. None of it's real. And I would be very like, I don't owe you an explanation. I just do. I can't scour the word and tell you why I believe this. I just do. My brother had moved out of the house when I was entering high school, right? So this stuff was him denouncing my faith and trying to be like, you actually don't believe it. You'll see that it's nonsense. This was in, middle school and even all the way back in elementary a little bit. So that 4 years without my brother, the household was a little bit better. My parents, still fought. That was just unfortunate, but they did. And that 4 years just went by with nothing.
Wow.
We would go to church on the special services. If a baby was getting baptized, we would show up. But that was it. That was it. It was like, oh, we're just going to go because our friends are there. And that's all she wrote. And come my first year of college, my brother moved back in. And my brother had 3 kids and a little baby mama. And the house dynamic was terrible. It was not the best my whole life. But once that he moved back in, I was an adult making my own decisions. I was going to college to pursue what I'm going to do for the rest of my life and all that stuff.
Right.
Stuff got really, the household was very heated and we hated each other. I can say that word with confidence. I hated my parents. My parents hated me. My brother hated me. I hated him. I hated my niece and nephews. My first nephew was born when I was in 5th grade. Right? Okay. We weren't close either. So it was just this weird, like, this is your nephew dynamic while I'm in 5th grade. And I'm like, oh, what does it mean to be an aunt? And it just kind of persisted. And so we just hated each other. We wanted nothing to do with each other. We, always in trouble, always having problems. And I was so fed up with my family because there had reached a point where there was no support. I was having to try to fight my father to give me his tax information so I could qualify for my future scholarships. Because, there's an age where you have to before you're 25, I think you have to have your parents' tax information. And he was like, I'm not going to give you my tax information. You're going to have to figure that out. And I was done. I was so fed up with it. So in secret, I started planning to move out. I was like, I'm going to move away. And I'm not just going to move away. I'm going to move as far away as possible. I was going to try to leave the country. I wanted to go to Japan. And I was like, if I go here, y'all can't follow me. I'm gone. Shoo, I'm gone.
Yeah.
You can't get me. And my brother had found out. He had found out that I was secretly trying to learn the other language, trying to learn the currency and all of that stuff, ratted me out. And everything just had a full boiling over. And the cops were almost called because of it. Wow. It was the most hatred I think I had ever encountered in my life was from my own family. Well, there were other kids there too, because my niece and nephews were young. And I became very secluded. I would stay in my room. I wanted nothing to do with my family. I kept everything on incognito. And I was like, I want nothing to do with any of you. And I'm going to move out one day and you can't stop me. I'm going to be an adult. I am an adult at that time and I'm going to leave. And I was working my jobs. I would get up at 4 a.m., go to the gym, stay at the gym, use their showers, use their stuff, go to the school, go to my work, come home late. And I would just go to my room. And that was it. I did not talk to my family that entire time that I was there. There was nothing. The only talk that would ever happen was just us at each other. Like that was it. There was never any kindness for that time frame, for that entire year anyway. Second year of college, that's when I met Drogan. And at the time, his girlfriend, which is very awkward now, but he came to college and I was working at a Petco. And now, mind you, this entire time, again, Jesus never crossed my mind. I never prayed. The only time anything that had to do with Christianity or God would come up was if somebody ever just happened to be talking to me and they would ask, you know, are you a Christian? And I would go, yeah.
Yeah.
But, sure I am. And then that would be it, right? That's it. Him and his girlfriend came to the Petco and we became really great friends. I became her best friend. And you know, life kind of kept going on. Things were getting even worse in my household, horribly, horribly, horribly toxic. And her father had a house in town, and he was like, hey, why don't we rent out to your friends? And I was amongst those friends. And so they offered me a room. They were like, hey, here's a room, come rent. We'll rent really, really cheap because you're a student. We know you. I worked for her parents.
Right.
So they were like, you're really good. You work really hard. So yeah, stay here. And I agreed, had a time frame where I was going to move in. I got one of my other best friends that had a truck. I was like, hey, I need you to help me move out. I need to be moved out this day. That's it. Like, I cannot go back. My stuff has to be moved out. And she was like, okay, you got it. Didn't tell my family that I was moving out until the day of. Nobody was like around in the house. They were all in their individual rooms. So they didn't even know I was getting my stuff and moving. I grabbed everything, was moved out in 3 hours, and I sent a text. I said, hey, I moved out. That was it.
Wow.
That's all she wrote. I was like, I don't want anything to do with you guys. Cursing and horrible, horrible things being said to me by my brother through text messages. My father had, you know, blown a gasket, was losing his mind over it, and my mom didn't care. So I moved in with, you know, my friends who were incredibly worldly. And I began getting really, really close to this girl who grew up Christian. But unfortunately, she turned away from faith because of really bad church hurt. And she started to pursue being a Wiccan or a witch, a good witch in the eyes of the world. And she would constantly, outside of, you know, studies, you know, we would carpool to school and stuff like that. So we spent a ton of time together because we were in the house together. We would cook together. We were like this. So I spent all my time with this girl who hated Jesus and hated God because of what people had done to her. And there was never a differentiation between that. And she hated it. And she was like, but you're different because you don't talk about it, you know. You're a good kind of Christian. It doesn't talk about anything that they like about their faith. Right? No. And so I started, she just became obsessed with wanting to be a witch. And, you know, sin is very convincing that you're doing something right. You can be a good witch. And so she tried to do that. And I was like, that's weird. That's not something I'm interested in. You can go do that in your room, but not in the room that I'm paying rent for. And she, you know, was respectable of that and, you know, did her stuff elsewhere. Drogan, who was now her fiance at the time, was like not into it whatsoever, but let her do what she wanted. I had another group of roommates, which were 3 boys, all 3 in a relationship, that also wanted to be doing this weird magic thing. And they all just started dabbling in the dark arts, I guess. And I had a job. I had a very early morning job. So I was up at like 4 a.m. getting ready for work and stuff like that, and did constant overtime and for school. And so I was not present for when this stuff was happening because they would be doing it at night. And all kinds of weird stuff would happen. I never experienced anything.
Wow.
Nothing happened. I'm in my room sleeping. We lived in a very dangerous part of town. I'm telling you, I would come home exhausted, working almost morning to night, especially during COVID. I worked at a hotel. So when COVID hit, they were like, we're going to give you all the hours and you're never going to sleep except for these 3 hours. So I would come home exhausted and I would fall asleep. And sometimes that would be with my window open, no screen, no nothing. People could just come in my room.
Oh.
God kept me so safe. He kept me so safe. And
Wow.
I'm cool to this, that he is protecting me, not just from anybody that's outside, but the reality is just because they're dabbling in all that weird stuff and I didn't have any, I'm not being participating, therefore it's not going to affect me. No, there was stuff happening. And the reason I know that is because Drogan had that happen. He was present and he wasn't messing with it either, but he could attest to the fact that there were things in that house. There were things being seen. There were things walking around in that house, stuff floating, stuff flying across the room. There was a day I wake up at 4 a.m., bright and happy as anybody waking up at that time would be. I'm getting ready. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm exhausted, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my hair and figuring out what I was going to do for the day because I did so much stuff at that dumb hotel. It was like, oh, I got to wake up. And I hear like 12 people scream in the house. Wow. And I'm like, oh, they're doing weird stuff again. Whatever, I'm going to work. And I come out and it's her, some of her friends, my other roommates, and Dragon. And I'm like, I don't want to hear what you have to say. I need to go to work. And they're like, wait, no. Don't go outside. There's little kids running around and playing. And I'm like, at 4 a.m., y'all go to bed. Go sleep. They, played around with minor drugs and stuff. I'm like, y'all are high, go to sleep. Leave me alone. I need to go to work. And they're like, no, they're not real children, but we can hear them. And again, I didn't believe any of them. But the only one that I did believe was him because he didn't enjoy any of it, didn't participate in any of it. He was a victim of their dumb crap that they were doing. Yeah. And he was like, no, there's something outside. And they had a candle. And that candle just went across the room, shattered, like blew up. Oh. And like there was glass from where it was left. And I'm like, are y'all sure that you're not the ones doing all this?
Right?
Or you're having a little bit too much of a good time. And they're like, no. It didn't help that we lived right next to a giant graveyard that they would just go walking in and be like, everything over here can come into our house. And I'm like, y'all.
Oh my goodness.
Like to look back on it and be like, really? All right, sure, guys. And I went to work. Okay. I go outside and I'm looking around and I'm being sarcastic because I'm tired. And I'm like, y'all need to shut up. And I'm like looking and I'm like, there's nothing out here. Yeah. And I need to go to work. And so I'm on my way to work. I'm exhausted. I reach work and a little bit later, one of the head cooks shows up and I was a barista that specific morning anyway. And I'm, counting the quarters in my drawer, trying not to fall asleep and miscount. And he strikes up a conversation with me and he's like, how's everything going? How are you? Making sure that I was safe because it's late at night and, we didn't work in a very safe area. So he was just making sure that I was okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm somewhere happened though. And I tell him about what had happened. And he's looking at me bewildered. Yeah. And he's like, are you a Christian? And like I always did, I went, yeah, I am. And he went, he's protecting you. I was like, huh? And he was like, God is protecting you from all that crap. And I woke up immediately. It hit me like a truck. I was like,
Wow.
oh my God, God is keeping me safe. He is protecting me from everything that's happening. How could I not have understood that? There was so much stuff. There was a drive-by shooting in front of our house.
Oh my goodness.
And almost every single vehicle had gotten hit somewhere. Mine didn't. Not
Wow.
one thing. The police had to check. They had to look at everything. I'm on the phone with the floor manager because this is like at 3 a.m. and I have to go to work for a maintenance midnight, early morning shift. And I'm like, I'm going to be a little bit late. Well, you can't be late. Okay, well, someone shot up the neighborhood. So the cops are just making sure it's safe for me to go to work. And he's like, okay, fine, but be quick. And it never crossed my mind.
Wow.
I worked construction with Drogan and at the time his girlfriend. And there was so much bad stuff happening amongst that entire construction crew that I had no idea about. There were other women amongst that crew that were getting raped.
Wow.
I had no idea. They didn't even know either. God protected me from so much stuff. And I had no idea. I didn't have a single idea of what it was. There were fugitives inside that hotel that up and left one day. And I was so fed up with stuff that we were waiting for the cops. And the floor manager was like, hey, can you check that room and make sure they're not there? And me and the other maintenance dude went up there like idiots. Mind you, don't do that. And opened it up and we're like, hello, any people that need to go to jail in here? Like,
Yeah.
who does? God kept me safe. He knew
Wow.
I was a little moron. And he kept me safe from everything. And I'm, making Americanos for grumpy old men that morning. And I'm like, he kept me safe. And they're like, okay, just give me my $5 coffee that's too expensive. Let me yell at you a little bit. And you go, whatever fit you're on, go do it later. And I get home and I fall to my knees. This is COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I just start crying. I'm in my room by myself, doors shut, and crying. And I'm like, I'm an idiot. I am so stupid. God has been keeping me safe all of this time. I haven't prayed to him. I haven't been, in quotations. I have done nothing. I have not pursued him or acknowledged his son that died for me on the cross. Since middle school. And he kept me safe all this time. And who knows what else has happened? That's just the stuff that I now know.
Right.
Happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was just sitting there crying, trying to make sure my roommates didn't hear me because I'm like, oh, I'm going to sound like I'm a dying walrus while I'm crying after work. And I'm like, I need to just cry in this pillow. And I'm like, I need a Bible. I need pens and highlighters. I need to learn. I know I'm an adult woman that knows nothing. The only thing I could remember, right, from, the little bit that I had gone to church, because in reality, it wasn't a lot. It was only 4 consistent years of my life that I'd gone, which isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things. So the knowledge that I had was very little and very baby and very embarrassing, if I'm honest. And so I messaged my dad, who I didn't talk to my family that entire year. That entire year I moved out, not one message. Not one message, not one phone call, nothing. Now, I didn't message them. They also didn't message me. It was a group thing of we hate each other still. Yeah. And I messaged my dad. And I apologized for, not being very nice. And I wasn't a bad kid by any means. I wasn't like a little rebel.
Right.
But, when I was in college and I really wanted to do stuff my way, I did fight. I turned into my mom and I was fighting tooth and nail, hollering. and just fighting my dad, just like she would do. And I told him that I had a revelation in my life that God's been taking care of me, and
Wow.
I needed a Bible. And he went, well, let's go get you a Bible. And that next time I had time off, we all met up at Hobby Lobby, me, mom, and dad, and I bought a Bible, New Living Translation, so I understood what I was reading.
Mm-hmm.
And had a dog that chewed it up, a little devil that he is. And what I think he ate the Book of Numbers in particular. Not sure why. So got a new Bible. Then I got another dog who threw up on my Bible. So I don't know what Satan's got going on with my dogs, but it's not great. And we reconnected, albeit little. My brother was, I stay out of the picture, but he still lived with my family, but I still didn't want anything to do with him. I had just returned to faith that I didn't know much about in the first place. And so, I reconciliated with my dad and my mom, and I still didn't talk to my brother. And I reached a point where I was like, I need to go to church.
Yeah.
I need to go to church. It was 40 minutes down to my childhood church. And I was like, I should probably try to find one closer. And I had a friend. She was a very sweet coworker that ran the front desk of the hotel. And she was there for just about 6 months, just long enough to meet me and stuff like that. And she was like, I go to a church. And here, let me, I invite you to my church. And so I went with her.
Yeah.
And it was a freshly planted church that got planted at the very end of 2019. So they had, fresh in COVID, kept, going strong with all, 8 of us.
Yeah. Say a rough time to plant a church.
Absolutely, it was. And I walked in there, and it was in a little tiny room because the actual area was still being built. And there were like little twinkle lights and a little like curtain in the background and a very messed up microphone. And you know what? The Holy Spirit was amongst those twinkle lights. I was sold. I was like, this is it. This is my home church. I made like no money. I was in debt because the hospitality industry went down first during COVID.
Oh, right.
So I made no money. I was so good with my finances until, you're not making any money. So I went into debt trying to survive and everything. And every little ounce of money I made, I would try to do a little bit of tithing. I didn't do any like 10%, but I was like, I made $8 in tips here.
Yeah.
And the pastor was like, you can keep your tips. You know that, right? And I'm like, take my money, take my $8. And I sat down with him because I like my very first day, first Sunday there, I was like, this is my home church. Good luck getting rid of it. And, he was like, are you sure you're brand new? He's like, I'm not trying to tell you not to come to church. I just want to make sure that you know that like you believe what we're preaching. Because there's, all kinds of denominations and stuff.
Right.
And I was like, well, you haven't preached anything that's contrary to the Bible yet. So yeah. I do think. And because I had such little knowledge, I was, I had my Bible in, I don't have it right now, but I was just like, what are you saying? Let me find it. Like it took me a while because how big the Bible is, but yeah, I was like, what you're saying better line up. And it did. It always did. And I told him, I was like, I, as you know, am a barista and make no money. So, I can't tithe consistently, but I can make a pretty good coffee. And so I wanted to start up a coffee stand.
Oh, cool.
Be part of the greeting community. And I did. And mind you, I'm still roommates with these people who are like, let's play with a Ouija board. And,
right.
I'm like, have we not learned our lesson, y'all? In the midst of this continuing to happen, every other day, they were knocking on my door rushing in, being like, we need to be in here because it's safe. And I'm like, it is 2 a.m. I have work in 3 hours. Get out and stop doing dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And, another conversation with, that cook, his name is Jeremy. He was like, that's because your room is safe. Because where you are and where the Holy Spirit is, none of that stuff can mess with. Like, it can't. And, again, I had such little understanding of stuff because this was all happening in a very short period of time between me having that realization and like them still being dumb. Like, it was just kind of event after event after event. And so my room and where I was in particular was sanctuary. I had all these people who hated Christianity, hated God, hated Jesus. They were like, we need to be where you are. We don't talk about church.
Wow.
We don't want to hear it. And I'm like, all right, like, one of them, he was like, can you go with me to my room? I left my charger. And I'm like, what do you? Well, there's something in my room, but if you go in there, it's going to go away. And I tried. I was like, why don't you guys just go to church? Come to church, have a coffee. It's free.
Yeah.
The church pays for it. Come have a coffee. Come sit down. Like, we love everybody. Well, y'all don't love nobody. You hate everybody. And I'm like, we don't.
Yeah.
We don't hate. Now, some of us aren't very great, Sometimes there's an old Ethel that wants to ruin your day.
I've met a few of them.
We've all had a few of those. And I'm like, but they're so, we love you.
Yeah.
What is Jesus? And like borderline foaming at the mouth. They're like, no. And I'm like, whatever. We're just going to burn some sage and make everything better. And I'm like, all right. I don't know what to do for you.
Wow.
And Drogan had grown up in the church as well. And he actually helped me learn how to do some of the special smaller coffees. We did pour overs in particular, which is like individual coffees, right? Instead of an espresso machine that made copious amounts of noise in church and cost a lot of money, or a big carafe, it was just this little like drip thing with a little cone filter.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to do a specific amount of grounds to a cup, right? And so you got to talk to someone for like 2 minutes if they wanted to endure my face for 2 minutes, or they could get drip coffee if they didn't want to talk to me. And he learned how to do that stuff at his own church growing up. So he taught me how to do it. So I could, because I worked at a Starbucks, we didn't do that.
Right.
There were no pour overs happening there. So he taught me how to do that. And in the midst of this stuff happening, unbeknownst to me, on his end, his girlfriend was losing her mind that I had come back to faith.
Wow.
And I wasn't like walking through the house with my Bible, preaching the word. I was in my room, smiling and happy and being a little bit of a dum-dum because I was like, I'm going to read the Bible in a week. That didn't happen. That did not happen. And, getting ready to go to church and carrying all my gallons of water because we didn't have water fountain. And I'm like, you're welcome to join me. If you'd like to go, I will happily take you. And like that invitation over and over and over again, she hated me. She went from being my best friend to hating my guts. And he defended me, which don't do that, men. You have a girlfriend and your girlfriend hates her friend. Don't defend the friend. And he was like, she rents her own room and reads her Bible in her room and goes to church on Sundays. And she invites us for coffee.
Right.
Like, she's allowed to do these things. You don't need to be upset about it. And she got so upset with him. They started drifting apart. And their breaking point was she actually decided that she didn't want to have a job and she wanted to have an OnlyFans.
Oh.
And sell her body online. And he was like, no, I'm marrying you.
Right.
You're going to be my wife. That's you're mine just as much as I am yours. And she was like, no, I don't want that. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Took said break. The household was terrible. All kinds of bad stuff was happening. And she was like, okay, things are a little bit better now. And they were together for just a little bit longer. And she ended up cheating on him. And that, that time that they were back together, she tried one more time to convince him, well, we'll make a lot of money if I do it, if you would just swallow your pride and let me do it. And he was like, no, I don't want you doing that. And it's because I love you. And she was like, no. Cheated on him, kicked him out of the house because it was a house that was going to get passed down to her anyway from her parents. And nobody wanted to help him move out. And I helped him. I helped him move out. And he loved her so much, right? And she was behind his back talking all sorts of nonsense, spreading horrible lies. And like defacement, like stuff that she technically could have gone to jail for saying.
Wow.
Type lies, be specific. And I was helping him move out, and she was like, why would you be helping him? He's terrible. And I'm like, don't you want him out? Like, you're kicking him out. You're giving him 3 days. Thank God, God was taking care of him too.
Yeah.
He was able to get a place. Now, the place part was really hard because he had reptiles and I had reptiles. And so it was very difficult to find a place to live.
Yeah.
People are, I guess there's just the assumption that I'm letting my ball pythons roam the house.
Right.
I'm not quite sure. And so, he would get hung up on. I would get hung up on because like when this stuff was happening, she was saying awful stuff, right? I didn't want any a part of it. She clearly didn't like me anymore. She began really touching into the dark stuff, and her and one of the other roommates were like, we're going to start cursing people, like trying to put curses on people. And I'm never going to say that I was the target of one of those because, like, I don't know. But it was the only time I ever did have an experience. And that is I had helped him move out. I was actively trying to find a place of my own. And I had all my reptiles, and I had at the time, my dumb dog I found off the streets and was dealing with. And I had plants. I loved plants. I got them on.
I can tell. Yep.
I had a beautiful pathos that was like hanging up on my ceiling, came down, almost reached the floor. I had that thing like the 2 years that I had lived there. Wow. And I loved it. It was beautiful, was fantastic, very healthy. I went to bed one night and I woke up at some unknown time of the night. I have no idea. And I felt something very sinister in my room, very specifically towards where my plant was. I had yet to get to a point in the Bible where it talked about like rebuking evil spirits and stuff like that. But I knew that it wasn't welcome.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And so I prayed, and then I fell back asleep. I don't even remember what I prayed, but I was very groggy and very like, you're not supposed to be here. And then just knocked back out. And I woke up the next day, and my beautiful plant that was very healthy the day prior was completely shriveled up and dead. Oh, wow. Whatever it was, whatever kind of demonic spirit, demon, whatever, it killed my plant. And I had to throw that thing away. And I had lived with her for a few months. I was still trying to find things I'm getting hung up on left and right. And I was friends with Drogan. And we would go to Sonic and get a drink. And he very drastically changed who he was being away from a person like she was. I'm sure. And he would talk about his experiences at church and stuff like that. And it's not that he pursued other religions or anything like that, but like he did not pursue God when he was with her because she hated it.
Right.
And he looked at other things and did research on like Buddhism and being a Muslim and just all kinds of stuff. And he kind of took a step back and was like, none of that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's only one thing in my life that has ever made sense. And he started talking about how much he missed the church. And I was like, well, come to church with me.
Yeah.
That invite wasn't just for her. It was for everybody in that house, including you. Come to church with me. And we ended up falling in love.
Aw.
And it was a very still, because I got with him when I was 22.
Okay.
I'd never been on a date. I never liked I hated everybody in high school. Every boy in school, I was like, y'all are, no,
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want a boyfriend. I never wanted a boyfriend. My whole game plan in my life was move away from my family, move to Japan, learn about giant salamanders, and that would be my life.
Hey.
That's all
Okay.
I wanted to do. And so I was like, no, husband, just noodles and salamanders. That's all I want, man. And God went, no, there's something else for you. And 22 years old, I thought I was sick, actually. I was like, oh God, I feel like I have the flu, and I'm on the phone with my friend who took me to Coram Deo in the first place, my home church, and I'm talking to her, and I was like, Alexis, I'm sick, and she's giggling and losing her mind, and she's like, I think you have a crush.
Yep. Lovesick.
And I'm like, no, never, couldn't be me. I don't have crushes. And meanwhile, Drogan, he confided a lot in his grandma during this time of heartbreak. And his grandma, if a grandma prays for you, it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
She so badly, first of all, was praying that he would not stay with, his ex. And then when she found out that I was a Christian and that I was pursuing God and all of that, she was like, in fact, Lord, while you're up there performing miracles, could you get him to fall in love with her?
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, we fell in love with each other. And I remember sitting down, real stern-faced, and I was like, I will not date you if you will not pursue God with me. And he went, done, already doing it.
Wow. Number one criteria. I love it.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not doing this with you. It's not going to work. You're not going to tolerate me going to church. You're going to church with me. And I don't want you fighting me like my parents fought their entire life. I was like, I want you to be madly in love with God like I am and continue to fall in love with God. And he went, okay, I'm going to do that. And he went to church with me. And he's got long hair. He's got hair very similar to mine. And we were wearing masks at the time, and it was very, very funny. So he's helping me with the coffee station that day. He's at church feeling very nervous. It's very nerve-wracking and very, you just get nervous when you've been in sin for so long and you go back to church for the first time. It is not euphoric, that's for sure.
Right.
Satan puts a lot of condemnation on you in the moment of you walking in those doors.
Yep.
And he was like, I don't deserve to be here. I walked away because of a woman. He was like, I walked away from God because of some dumb broad. Are you kidding me? I don't deserve to be here. And, he's really got a lot of internal fighting happening while he's there, and he has his beard covered, but he's got a long set of hair. And so he's helping me with the coffee. My pastor comes up and he's like, who's your lady friend? And he takes his mask down and he was like, my name's Jacob. And my poor pastor, he went, oh, I'm so sorry. And, it's been our home church ever since. It's grown immensely and we've learned so much. We got married there and, it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
We never saw his ex again.
Yeah.
I moved out Same thing. I was like, you don't need to know that I'm moving out. I moved out. She had no idea that we were dating because it was very awkward, as you can imagine, being her.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this is weird. And my mom was very concerned. She was like, did you have feelings for that young man? And I went, no, I actually didn't like him. I really disliked who he was when
Yeah.
he was with her. So no, I didn't like him. And, we went from, we lived in a little tiny 1-bedroom house, Tetrising all of our reptiles because we rescue reptiles.
Oh, okay.
And we love it. Don't get me wrong. It's amazing. We have a habit of rescuing things. We have a beautiful husky mix
Nice.
who makes me question my sanity every 20 minutes, probably.
Huskies are known to do that.
He's a husky shepherd mix.
Oh.
So
okay.
So there's an internal, like, do I eat this thing?
Yeah.
A butt whooping's worth it. And then we, later on, I rescued a beautiful little pit bull mix. She's technically a Staffordshire Terrier. Little white boxer pity mix.
Okay.
That has about half a brain cell bouncing around in there. And, she tests our sanity in a whole other way, and we love it. We love people being like, you have snakes and you're Christians.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think that those, are conflicts.
Right.
I don't think that for every snake I'm getting docked a point.
Yeah, no.
And we've been writing out our lives, moving from job to job, trying to figure life out because jobs have been hard.
Yeah.
I'm a dropout. Never made it through college. I tried so hard, and I wanted to be an exotic vet, basically.
Okay.
I specifically, I wanted to work with reptiles, and I had a thing for bats. I was like, I really want to work with bats, especially with like all of the issues that bats have in this area. And for whatever reason, college is like, if you want to be able to dose medicine, you have to add shapes and colors together. And I was like, I'm colorblind and I have dyscalculia. I can't do either of those things.
Ooh.
So I ended up dropping out. And Drogan was in computer science, and he had a ton of stuff going wrong. And as soon as she was like, get out of my house,
Yeah.
he dropped out. He was like, I can't. He was already really, really struggling because they were constantly fighting with each other. So he wasn't on top of his studies either. So he was on the verge of losing his scholarship anyway. So he tapped out. He got out of there.
Wow.
But despite that, he is trying to make video games with a very good friend of his. And
Wow.
we still get calls from random people that are like, I have an aggressive snake. And I'm like, yes, the answer is yes. I'll take them.
Wow.
I don't care how spicy Velcro they are, give them to me.
Yeah.
They're a joy. And, every day you're going to be faced with a challenge that the devil tries to throw at you. And for me, because I talk to you a lot about it, actually, I am a very anxious person. And because of that, of course, the devil's like, well, if you're anxious, do you even trust God in the first place?
Right.
And I get stuck in just a thought loop of, well, I am anxious and I am afraid of everything. So maybe I don't really trust God. And Drogan had the good head on his shoulders, and like, I'll go to him. And I was like, I'm thinking about persecution, and like, what if someone did threaten to kill me and I was afraid of dying? Like, does that mean I'm saved? And he's like, yes. Everybody's afraid of that. You're not new.
Yeah, that's not unique.
That's not unique. If it was, that'd be a little weird.
Yeah.
And I'm 28 years old now. Been an active Christian since 2020. So
yeah,
still kind of baby, still kind of figuring out my steps and everything, pursuing God, reading the Bible. Read your Bible. If it doesn't stick in your brain, keep doing it anyway, because one day you're going to be reading something else, and something that wasn't even in your brain in the first place, that just managed to kind of hook itself on one of those brain wrinkles, it's going to connect.
Boom.
You will remember something.
That's right. That's right.
It will. You will remember it. I have that happening recently. Been listening to the Bible in 6 months. I tried to do it last year. I got about halfway through.
Okay.
And I was listening to the second half this year.
Hey,
and,
nice.
you know, I'm at work listening to it, and I'm like, hold on a minute. That pertains to all the way back when.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a great feeling, because it's God's working in your life, in your brain, in everything. And he loves us so much.
Yeah.
And that stuff is real. For anybody who is in my shoes, who is like ghosts and all that little weird twiddledum stuff, that's not real. It is. It is very real. And if you're not right with God, it is scary.
Yeah.
Because, you know, despite the fact that I didn't see it, you know, I'll see if Drogon wants to put his testimony at some point. He was very present in what was happening, and he did see giant things in the hallways, walking around and hearing noise and seeing stuff floating and stuff going flying. Like, it's real. The spirit realm is real. Demons are real, and Satan is real, and he hates us. Yep. He hates our guts. Every single one of us, whether or not you are in love with Jesus or not, Satan hates us, and Jesus loves you.
Boom.
He always will.
Amen.
And I think that's it.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That's incredible. First off, thank you for coming on and being willing to share, and for someone who says that they, you know, struggle with anxiety and all this kind of stuff, you presented very well. Like you did a great job. I have a couple of just quick follow-up questions. What's life like now with your parents and family and all that kind of dynamic? You know, I know you mentioned a couple times, you know, since y'all went and got the Bible and other things, like just some ongoing conversation, I guess, with your mom, you know, but what's that look like today?
It's much, much better.
Awesome.
Me and my mom, I mean, I'm her daughter. We butt heads. I mean, like, that's just kind of how it is. My mother still, unfortunately, has very bad crippling depression. And it's kind of an ongoing battle, because I love my mom so much. She's always been a believer. Let me be very transparent about that. My mom is a believer, but she is plagued with depression that has kind of gone into a really bad, like, she thinks people are out to get her. Like, she doesn't think that there's somebody out her window. Let me be very clear of that. But, like, she doesn't go to church because she thinks that everybody at church hates her or is judging her very poorly. And so, you know, I try to be like, Mom, people that are going to church are in need just like you. And like I said earlier, sometimes there's a sour Ethel trying to mess up your day, but she's there too because she needs Jesus.
Right.
We're still rebuilding that relationship, because again, it's been 5 years, and prior to that 5 years was nothing but hate.
Wow.
But you know, every now and then she'll go to church. She'll go to church with me. We talk on a very regular basis. Outside of my very specific work season, we'll be on the phone almost every day for an hour. I send my entire family, you know, her included, the, you know, daily verse. If I'm reading something specific, you know, on the little YouVersion Bible app, and I'm like, write that down, I'll take a picture and send it to be like, look at what I found, you know, that kind of thing. And then my dad is also kind of in that boat. And my brother actually is in that boat too. He gets to see all my Bible shenanigans as well.
Oh, good. Because that was my next question, was what are things like with him? Because just didn't know if that had healed any at all, but I'm glad to hear that, he's getting that. He's receiving that. I'm sure he, even if maybe from a distance, he's seen the difference, the change in you.
I mean, I hope so. I'm still, I am a sinful human. Still, I always will be. All that anger that I grew up with, I have a problem with anger. I get mad.
Yeah.
Like, let me be clear. I get mad at nothing, and I'll just sit there and be like, what is wrong with me? Are you kidding me? This is stupid.
Yeah.
And my brother has it too, because we would be at each other, and I'm like, you're a grown man. I'm little, and I'm like, go do something. Leave me alone.
Right.
So my relationship with my brother is very new, is the best way I could describe it, because, he hated me from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. So, and my brother had reached out to me last year.
Oh, wow.
My brother, an alcoholic,
Hmm.
did drugs, slept around with women. He was in California with a girl who was not good for him. And my brother was a very bad drinker. And by all accounts, should have been dead, because he had fallen multiple times in the bathroom, smacking his noggin on everything in the bathroom.
Oh,
and
wow.
he'd be knocked out and going, was throwing up blood and all kinds of terrible, terrible stuff. And he thought he was going to die last year. And 2024. It's 2026 now. So 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
He, sent me a text while I was at work, actually. And he, we didn't even have each other's numbers. Let me be very clear. I had my mom and my dad's number. I did not have my brother's number. He reached out to my dad and asked for my number. And he texted me. And he apologized for everything. He was like, I know that I was a terrible big brother. You were little, and you had no little child should have an adult man screaming at them for anything. That's not okay.
Goodness.
And, that's where we started trying to slowly rebuild. I can't even say rebuild, build from scratch a relationship. And it was, how many months has it been? He's been sober for a hot minute. But
good.
He had called me quite a few months ago. And late at night, and he was crying, and he was like, I think I'm dying. I need to go to the hospital. And he, Jacob and I, we hopped up, took off, going 110 down the interstate to go pick him up and everything. He had just come back home because he'd been in California for a few years with that woman, and she had dropped him off, basically left him for dead at my parents' house. And, he was horribly, horribly sick. We had a trash can in the car with a bunch of bags, because he was throwing up blood like crazy. And we get him to the hospital, and we wait there forever because it's, the United States. And we're sitting there with him, and he is skin and bones, yellow in the eyes. And he's looking at himself, and he hates himself so much, because every person that went into that hospital, he was like, I don't even deserve to be taking up space for someone that actually needs help. And the entire way, when we were on our way, because it's a long drive. It was like a 40-minute drive to get him to the hospital. And I was praying the entire time, because they'd gone to the hospital before in California for this whole mess. And he was basically kicked out of the hospital. They're like, you're an alcoholic. You don't get nothing. You're better off dead. Yeah, he was treated terribly, and he was terrified that whoever would see him over here, that they would also treat him like trash. And I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed that entire time there. I reached a point where I just had my hands on him, and I was just repeating Jesus over and over and over again in my head, because I didn't even have anything else that I could say or ask. And we get there, and the nurse, she was so nice. She was so loving. The doctor came in, and that's who my brother was really afraid of, because the previous doctor was the one that was like, you don't get nothing. We're not helping you. Right. This man walked in a very stern, voice. He was like, first of all, how are you doing? Approached him like he was a patient, not, a human being, not just the thing there.
Yeah.
And, he went, I do see here that you claim that you are an alcoholic. And my brother said, yes, sir. And he said, and you want help. And my brother said, yes, I don't want to be an alcoholic. And that doctor looked at my brother in the eyes and said, we're going to get you the help you need, son.
Let's
It's going to
go.
be okay. And every nurse that walked in was so nice to him, was so loving to him, and like just prayers coming true.
Yeah.
Right. He was really getting along with Jacob, which was great. Drogon lost his mom to alcohol.
Oh, wow.
A while ago. And so, he was sitting down just talking to my brother, and my brother was asking, he was like, my mom was too far gone, but you're not.
Wow.
You're not. And, that support factor, we got him, back home.
Mm-hmm.
We got him back home, and he had COVID. We had COVID. We were around him for like 8 hours at the hospital.
Yep.
So we dropped him off. He couldn't have any medicine because of the whole alcohol thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just made copious amounts of soup. And let me tell you, anybody that lives in California, your guys' COVID is insane, because I thought I was dying. Like, that stuff is bad. And since then, my brother hasn't touched the stuff. He paints minifigures, and unfortunately, he also is plagued with really bad depression. And I've never verbally spoken to him about Jesus or attempted to spread the gospel verbally. And the reason why is because he's around my parents, who I know do it enough.
Yeah.
And probably, I love my parents, but probably still in the way that they used to when we were younger. And so I'm like, I don't need to be trying to hop in playing the bongos that my parents are probably doing every day.
Yeah.
So I've talked to you about it. I ask because I do want to make sure that my brother is hearing the true gospel, that first of all, that God is the reason he's alive.
Right.
Like, that whole situation, he talking to the doctors about what's happened, and him whacking his head on, bathroom sinks and the tub and the floor, and laying there frigid because like he was taking a shower and slipped, like could have had hypothermia and stuff like that. They're like, you're alive? And it's like, that's not just a coincidence that you are alive. That is the Lord.
Right.
That is the Lord saving you, keeping you alive. Your liver, and my brother's liver, was almost shot. The only thing that was working, barely working, mind you, was his kidneys. And if your kidneys go when you're an alcoholic, that's it. Yeah. That's all that's right for you. And his kidneys were stressed, but still functioning. So I send it, we have a family group chat, and I send the daily verse of the day. When I remember, I will take a picture of my daily devotional, and I will send that. And when I'm listening to the Bible every day, if there's anything that I'm like, dude, that's cool. Like, I'm not just trying to get the stuff that's like Jesus this and Jesus that, even though everything should be Jesus is Jesus. Sometimes just hearing something cool can pique your interest. And so anything that I think is just really, really, really neat, I will pull it up, put the little highlight mark on my phone, and then snap a screenshot and send it. And I pray that he reads it. I pray that he's not just like, oh, it's just my sister doing her Bible thing again. I pray for an interest, for questions, because my brother does feel very hopeless still. He's he doesn't like going out. I invite them all to church, of course, all the time. He doesn't like it. He, like my mom is like, well, they're just going to judge me. Like, look at me, I'm skinny. And I'm like, we have homeless people that come in there, big brother. Yeah. You will be heavily loved. In fact, you are loved. You're loved by so many people at the church. When I pray, when I ask for prayers from you guys, that's love. Coming from people that don't know.
I was about to say, we've never met him. I don't know what he looks like. I've never had a conversation with him in my life, but we love him. and we'll keep praying for him. And he might not ever know that. We may never meet him or encounter him, but you're right. There are people all over the place who love him, who are praying for him, and just everything you've shared, his story is not over. Like, he is still alive for a reason. My sister can relate to a lot of the things that your brother's gone through with the battle with alcohol and all the times she should have been dead, but she's not. And God has and is doing amazing things in her life. And I believe the same for your brother. He's still here for a reason. Wow.
Absolutely. I'm like, there's no way that God brought you here just to be done with you.
Right.
No way.
Yeah. Wow. So just a word of encouragement is keep doing what you're doing. What you're doing is awesome. Like you may, not like there may be times where you feel even discouraged. Like, is this making a difference? Am I making a dent? Am I, doing anything? Yeah, you are. Cause think about all, the encounters with Drogan all that time, inviting. And, hey, those weren't just for them. They were for you too. And, look at all the change in his life and where he and you both are now. So just keep doing that. Keep sharing those verses, keep living it out. Cause like you said, you don't want to hit the same drum that your parents are probably doing with him, but he's heard it. He's been around it, but he is now seeing it, not just hearing it, but he's seeing it in you. And, we're going to keep praying for him too.
Thank you so much. It is encouraging because sometimes you don't know because you don't see what's happening.
Right.
You
That's
really
right.
don't.
Yeah, and people are responding and have a lot of good comments and things over on the Twitch chat. I don't know if you're in either chat right now or not, or just in our call, but people are.
Just in the call because this was too much tech for me to do in the first place.
I got it. Well, people have really enjoyed this and can relate to a lot of it. But just a couple of helpful things wanted to share with you from chat is like Full Titan just kind of saying the same thing. I was just saying, reminding you keep it up, but he said, the prayer of the righteous is powerful. The effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. It's effective. It's powerful. It's effective. So keep praying for them. Other people that just, have gone through similar things, have seen similar things, have similar stories here and there. Donna just said, Cactus, I want to encourage you with this. Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. Yeah, St. Francis of Assisi, right? Yeah, our life can speak volumes.
Shush! I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I saw the dog earlier in the background. Oh, there they are.
Yeah. You telling me the mailman's here? Thank you for knocking over my Hey, it's okay. Drop enough coffee. Good Lord, I am so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's funny. Yep, I can see the shepherd. The husky and the shepherd. I see it.
Hey. Here we
go. And yep, I can see some pit terrier something going on in that other one too, for sure.
These are my precious loves who protect me from the evil mailman who just wants to deliver my stuff.
Oh, yeah, chat's loving the dogs. Can I pet that dog?
I have so many reptiles. I have one like 2 feet that way. Do you guys want to see a snake for like 8 seconds?
Yeah, I do. Chat, if you're scared of snakes, blink for a minute. But I love them. Yeah, show me all the things. I want to see them. Gunslinger. Mailman delivers bills, so they do indeed be evil. That's pretty funny. Yep, that's right, ukulele. And Christian Ninja and everyone who just came in during the testimony time didn't want to interrupt. Thank you so much. I hope you had a wonderful stream. Right, welcome in, y'all.
One of them, anyway.
Ooh, who are we looking at?
Show our face. Here's our face. This is Blossom.
Aw.
She's a beautiful ball python that is currently shedding. Ooh, let me just get that all in my coffee. Goodness. We actually traded one of our snakes for her because he was a little spawn of Satan.
Oh.
And I couldn't do anything with him. Like he would just like be attached to my hands. And ideally, Drogon and I would like children one day.
Mm-hmm.
And probably having a snake that didn't want to just eat me 24/7 would be nice to have in the household. So I took him there because he was a very, very healthy king snake.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, do y'all want him to our local pet shop?
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, let's trade.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
they gave me her. She's a bit of a wobbly girl. She's got something called spider gene in her, which means she does this all the time.
Huh.
And so they're not easy to take care of because it takes about 8 hours to feed her because, like snakes, they want to strike at their food.
Right.
And then she misses, and then she misses, and then she gets discouraged because she missed, and then she misses again, and then she'll miss again.
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
Huh. I've never heard of that. Wow. You can kind of see it, that she's just kind of back and forth a little bit.
She's a little bit, but she's a sweetheart. We love her.
That's awesome.
All right, Mom.
Bye, Blossom. That's so cool. Yeah, Neon. I don't think it works for YouTube, but yeah, it's a great tool for here on Twitch, and it's free. Anyone who wants it to add to your Twitch account, just go to chapterverse.online. It's wonderful.
Alrighty, I would show you everybody else, but everybody else just ate, so I can't really pick them up.
I understand. Wow.
But I will take pictures and put
Yeah.
them in your chat, I guess.
Yeah. We have a channel it's called Real Life and Animals. So yeah, that's a great place to post it. So we'd love to see them all.
Definitely.
Okay.
You will have a blast with everybody that we have. But that's it, unless there's any other questions.
Yeah, I don't think I have any other questions. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing. That's super encouraging to me. I hope it is to others. And man, just again, thank you for being willing to share.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I've never really shared my testimony, so
really, wow.
Probably once, but not the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really kind of isolate the weird crap that's happened because that really gets people to be like, "What?"
Yeah, but that's an important.
Thing, no.
Well, that's an important part of the story.
Yeah, definitely.
It is. Yeah. Wow. I know we hadn't talked about this in DM or anything, and I mean, feel free to answer or not answer or DM me later or whatever, but I can post this on YouTube if you'd like me to, or like as a standalone video. We have a playlist with some other testimony videos if you want to have this to share other places, or I can make it private, or I can just send you a recording or whatever you want, or nothing at all.
Public. Like, you can put it with the YouTube stuff so people can see. I've got no problem with that.
Okay, then I'll do that, and I'll send you a link so you can share with other people and family, friends, whoever. There'll be a record of it. So
sounds good. Well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and thank you again so much. Have a great day.
You too.
All right,
bye. Everybody.
Bye.